Good evening. Today is Monday, November 10th. It is 7:39. Apologize for the delay. This is the Marlborough Public School Committee meeting for November 10th, and we will call this meeting to order. I'd like to remind everyone that we are taped live and streamed by WMCT-TV. Can I have you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. We will jump right in. So we have the presentation for the MPS recognition for the Unified Champion School District. So I do believe they are here today. So if you guys want to come up to the podium. Just want to make sure the green light is on. If so, you can begin.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicholas Rolando. I'm one of the special education liaisons at Marlborough High School.
Hi, I'm Michaela Mahoney De Silva, and I am the special education liaison in we're the Special Olympics kind of coordinators for the district, and I'm at the middle school.
Amazing. We had the pleasure from Special Olympics to be awarded as a unified champion district. We got a really awesome plaque, which is really cool. And we wanted to take a moment to just highlight some of the things that our district is doing, right from the high school to the elementary schools, in that unified nature.
So the high school and the middle school have been unified champion schools for the last couple of years. The high school much longer, but because we've had different things like inclusive sports, I can look over here too, inclusive leadership and whole school engagement. But with the addition of the unified game day for the whole district last year, we met these expectations as a district. So we were able to be honored as a unified champion district this year. And, you know, all of the schools are doing a lot more work to bring inclusion and have different initiatives within the schools. And it's just a nice way to recognize that all of the work that everybody's been putting in, including the students. And kind of the next step, and I think maybe the high school has been recognized as like a unified national banner school. Like we want to keep going. We want to do as much as we can as a district. But the core expectations for Special Olympics for unified champion districts are to have collaboration between school leaders and the Special Olympics, and we're lucky to have a Special Olympics headquarters in Marlborough. We have a close relationship with them over there. Sustainability, so the first couple of years of unified sports, there is like some funds from Special Olympics, and they really help you out a lot, but then they want you to kind of be able to stand on your own feet as a school, as a district. And then the quality standards of collaboration for a respectful culture, and that goes to like whole school engagement for inclusive activities and kindness initiatives, advocacy, and reporting back to the Special Olympics. They take data from us at the end of every school year, and they use it, to better their practices too.
We want to take a moment to show you some of the amazing photographs we have, some of our different events. This past June, we had the Marlborough Public Schools Unified Game Day, which all of our schools, elementary to high schools, participated. We all have the fun We Are Unified shirts, as you're seeing them worn. It was an awesome day of unity, and all of our kids had a lot of fun. It was a champion of an event that we got to plan along with many of our sites as well. It was a beautiful day. Continuing on some of our other events that we have going on, right? We do have a lot of different unified sports that are happening in our schools, from bocce, from basketball, track and field, right? Happening across our schools. That they're really awesome. I recommend going to check them out if you get the opportunity. Beyond that, our unified sports, we also have some unified electives, right? In which our students are getting to participate with their peers, right? From anything from culinary to music to art and all these different things. So it's a really awesome opportunity for our students to see. Thank you.
Inclusive leadership is something that we recognize that we want to have more of. We do have at the high school the student council, and
Best buddies.
and Best Buddies. It's not closed off to anybody, and there are some students who have disabilities that are taking advantage of those opportunities, but having a more, almost reverse inclusion type of model for inclusive leadership. The middle school went to an inclusive leadership conference last year at the Special Olympics, and there were partners and players that went, and they took a lot back from that conference to their school. And these are just some pictures of students working together.
That's our presentation.
I would like to add that for the elementary schools, this past year, we were able to take some of the special education grant funding to have school-based liaisons at the elementary school and the early childhood center to start looking at and taking these same activities that we're doing at the secondary level and really start exploring opportunities at the elementary level. Those will be posted in the next couple of weeks to continue that work this year, so that we're doing more than just a unified game day, that we're looking at expanding those unified opportunities at our elementary level.
Excellent. Catherine.
I'm just going to say, I have to say, the experience that I've seen as a parent watching my kids have the opportunity of being involved with all kinds of students at all different levels, starting with like lunch bunch at the elementary level, working through field day programs at elementary, and then continuing on to all different kinds of programs the whole way throughout, whether it be through Special Olympics or others, has been absolutely fantastic. I think empathy, but support of anyone, really, that they learned early on. And I think it just became kind of second nature. It's not something that had to be told. It was worrying about your friend. And I think that kind of kindness and working together has been amazing. Risha, who you all may remember, who sat in your seat, has continued in college to be a huge advocate for Special Olympics, and was actually selected on the national level, if you will, to continue on. And it really all germinated from here, which I think is just an amazing testament to what we started here. So thank you to all of you, because it really takes a village. And I think it's just seeing what she's doing on the national level, I just blows me away. So thank you.
Anyone else? No? I was able to partake in somewhat by showing up and seeing game day, and it was a lot of moving pieces, the map and everyone. So kudos to you. It looked like a very well-oiled machine. I don't know how anyone could follow that map, but you all did it very successfully, and it was a really great day. So it was great to be there and see everyone seemed happy, and plenty of water, because I know it was a little bit of a warm day. But kudos to all of you for actually being unified. So thank you. Hopefully I'll be able to come to next year. So thank you.
Yes, please make sure you let us know when the events are so we can come.
Yeah.
And on that, I would say too, with, because I know that you have like as you were mentioning, the different sports activities like the bocce or the basketball and things like that. That'd be great if we can get any heads up about those throughout the year. So it's not just necessarily waiting for the Special Olympics, which is amazing to be able to be a part of, but knowing some of the different events that happen throughout the year. And that way we can also make sure that we're making people aware so that we can get other community members to attend as well. So, thank you.
The date is already set for Unified Game Day, June 5th, 2026. It's a Friday. So made sure that that's on the books. That is on the district calendar.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? No. So we'll see you all on June 5th. Yeah. All right.
Not before.
Thank you. All righty. So we'll be moving on. Yes. Okay. Superintendent's report.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of items on my report this evening. You'll notice before I jump into them, as my goals were approved, I did list next to each item the focus indicator that the items in my report will be connected to. So just to help kind of keep things organized and running. If you were wondering what that meant when it popped up, that's where it came from. Great suggestion, Michelle. Thank you. I think that was from you. So moving forward, we'll keep labeling them, so we keep it all focused. But my first update is on the Richer School. The Office of Teaching and Learning and I have been working very closely with Mrs. Richards and frankly, the whole school community. We've been attending weekly meetings with the principal, doing learning walks, going through data analysis review sessions, talking about how we're going to utilize that data. Also, of course, reviewing the spring of 2025 MCAS and accountability results with the school staff as well to make sure that we're all plugged in and getting the same information. And recently reviewing the beginning of year NWEA results actually district-wide. So we had a data presentation at our leadership team meeting last Thursday where each school presented their beginning of year results and talked about next steps. The Richer School was very much included in that. Additionally, have been spending some time looking at just student demographic data and really trying to kind of get a very clear picture of where we think some of the challenges are and how we landed where we did as far as the achievement and accountability data. So each piece of information that we've been reviewing has really helped to paint a more clear picture of some of just the work that needs to happen, but it is already underway, frankly, in some respects under Mrs. Richards' leadership. And additionally, thinking about what are some of the other systems and structures that we might need to put in place at the Richer School to help support their turnaround efforts. And so that work is very much underway. We additionally had a launch call with the Department of Education on Thursday, October 30th, to discuss what being in targeted assistance means and the level of support that they will be providing to the Richer School. And we have our first on-site school visit with our targeted assistance liaison on Tuesday, November 18th. I will say I'm very proud of Mrs. Richards and the work that she has already started and the work that, frankly, the team at the Richer School has really dug deep into. As you know, we've had one other school that was in the targeted assistance that came out, the Whitcomb School, and I would pose it came out pretty quick. And I think that's important to note because it means we know how to do this. And so I have full confidence in Lisa Richards and the team at the Richer School leading these efforts. So kudos to you, Principal Richards, for the work that you have started already. Along those same lines, the mayor and I and members of our owner's project manager firm, architecture firm, and members of the school building committee for the Richer School attended the Massachusetts School Building Authority Facilities Assessment Meeting. Last week, we presented our initial preferred building design, which was directly informed by our education plan, which we know was created by, kind of boots on the ground, educators and leaders, putting that work together. I will say the part that I think has been very cool for me to see kind of coming in like midway through that movie was how the education plan really has come to life in the initial design. It's actually pretty neat to see the connection between what the design team put together as it relates specifically to the teaching and learning plan that the educators and administrators so well crafted. So that's been a lot of fun. We are waiting for some feedback, although we did get many questions during the presentation. I think all in all that went well.
Yeah, a lot of questions and a lot of compliments, so which was very nice to hear. So it went better than expected, in my opinion. So, which is always good to. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So lots of good work happening in the Richer School community. And so it takes a village, as cliche as it sounds, but it truly does. As we continue to work on the structural building and the instructional part of the building. So kudos to Lisa and her team.
Yeah.
The next item on my report is multifaceted. I just want to give a brief update on our enrollment and our attendance. You will see the enrollment in your packet, and I'll review the attendance with you because I wanted it hot off the press from today. I'd like to do the year-to-date info. So first, with enrollment, currently the high school is at 765 students. Our middle school, Whitcomb, is at 939 students. And behind that, you will see the enrollment for each of the elementary schools. Jarwick is at 650. Kane is at 470 students. The Richer School is at 518, and Goodnow is at 774. ECC is hovering just under 200 at 197 students. Right now, the total district enrollment is 4,364 students. So holding steady. For attendance, as you know, we track our attendance every week by school by grade, and have some good news to report on the attendance front. Our high school attendance has ticked upwards just a bit. We are just over the 93% attendance average, a daily attendance average rate. And each of our elementary schools is just over 95% daily average attendance. So again, holding strong across the elementaries as well. And Whitcomb is just under 95% daily average attendance at 94.7. So I would argue 50 days in, today was day 50 of the school year, our attendance is holding strong as far as those daily averages being well up into the 90s. So to our families listening, thank you very much for getting our children to school each day, and we want to keep pushing towards 100% attendance. But so far, we are making some good headway in our student attendance. And I'll continue those updates as well. Shifting over to our Assistant Superintendent, Student Services and Equity, we are going to hear from Jody this evening around our special education redesign efforts. You did receive some information in your packet that Jody is going to talk us through. The Department of Education has identified Marlboro as in need of targeted assistance in our area of special education. And Jody will talk us through how we are redesigning and realigning those efforts. At our next meeting, we will hear from the leader of our English Language Learner Department. While they were not deemed in need of targeted assistance, they did, our ELL department did get some significant feedback from our tiered focus monitoring review from the Department of Education that will require some significant changes. So we are going to hear about that on November 25th. So with that, Jody, I'll turn it over to you.
Can I just ask one question? I know you're going to address it, RJ, in your report, but when you do the attendance academies, do the kids get credit for the attendance that does it affect the attendance numbers at all when they do the makeups? Do you know, did I articulate that question?
Yeah, as long as they are there for 4 hours or longer, which is the minimum time that we set, then it counts as an attendance credit.
It does. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, and I actually had a question on another portion of the report before we go to special education, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the information about Richard and the work that you're doing there. I guess one question I have is just from a community standpoint. Obviously, I think it can be kind of shocking whenever any districts receiving that kind of information. And I'm just curious, how have people been? I mean, because it's really a collaborative effort on needing to, figure out where we all can take steps of improvement. And I'm just curious about how things have gone, because sometimes it's really hard getting that kind of information.
I'm happy to answer some of that, Lisa. I don't know if you want to come to the podium and answer some of that too, but I think,
Yes.
but I think you hit the nail on the head from the perspective of it's tough, right? So when you have individuals like our staff that are working really, really hard every day, and they're just not getting the results that we would hope they would get, it can certainly feel defeating. But one of the things I have learned about our staff in a short amount of time is they are very resilient. And so, when I had an opportunity to meet with the richer staff and go through the accountability results and the MCAS results with Lisa, one of the things that we gave them, not that we needed to give them permission to do, but we said was like, it's okay to sit in your feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Like it doesn't feel good. And that is healthy. Like let's process through that. Right. So that we can kind of come to the other side. And I think we're getting there as far as working through those. Lisa's put a lot of systems and structures in place that have helped teachers have an opportunity to talk about the work, talk about the results, talk about the next steps, but also vent frustrations when things are not working the way we want them to.
And I think that that's why I'm just trying to say it out loud and acknowledge it. It's not easy sometimes reflecting that we need to reflect and maybe take a different step or a different approach. So I'm just curious because sometimes that can be defeating, yet our purpose is to find success for the students. So, I'm just looking because I don't want it all feeling like it's all on your shoulders, like we're in it together. So how can we collectively work together to get there?
Thank you. Yes, I just want to reiterate everything that Dr. DePalco was saying. The staff worked so hard across the whole district, but when you get the results that we got, it was a bit alarming and it was defeating, but they're not sitting there. They are doing the hard work. I think right now we're still in that mode where it's a little frustrating because we haven't seen the results yet, right? We're starting our progress monitoring and we're starting to see that our kids are moving. But I have to say, Jay, RJ, everybody, Jody has been so supportive of Richer, anything that we need, we're asking for, and they're guiding me through what we can do, what we're able to do. We got that interventionist position. We got the intervention coordinator, which has been great in helping us really dig deep into our data. We just started a before school tutoring program. Today was the first day, focusing on grades 3 and 4 because we know those are our students that are struggling and they're going to be testing for the state. And a lot of our intervention during the school day is happening in 5th grade, which is why we didn't target 5th grade specifically for this round. So I'm curious to see how our progress monitoring data is reflected over the next couple of weeks with that before school intervention happening. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a challenge trying to keep staff motivated as well because they really are working so hard. But they're resilient just like the kids and they're stepping up. So I'm proud of them.
Yeah, no, and thank you. I think that's part of it is acknowledging how hard it is and how hard people are working. And so how can we all work together to make sure that you have what you need so you can get there. So thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Let's move on. So the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services and Equity.
Thank you very much. So tonight I'm going to discuss with the school committee a strategic action plan that I've developed to address student outcomes for students with disabilities. So this is going into my 9th year at Marlborough Public Schools, and as a central office leader overseeing special education, I have really spent a lot of time focusing on, along with our Director of Special Education, John Fletcher, on improving and strengthening our substantially separate programs, really reducing the needs or referrals for out-of-district programs, and keeping those students within the district. In addition to focusing on compliance, procedures, timelines, the paperwork piece of it, and really developing our educational team leaders at the building level to be able to have those systems in place to be able to respond to the audits that we have. And over this time, those audits have been really well received. We get great reports as far as our compliance. But during that time, I would say as a leader, I haven't really focused and emphasized on curriculum and instruction. And that has impacted our students with mild to moderate special needs. the larger majority of our students with disability population that are really within our general education classrooms. So while the work is really important to continue, and we will continue working on our substantially separate programs and continuing that work, really going to also focus, in addition to that, in alignment with the superintendent's goals and the work of the Office of Teaching and Learning, work to create systems and structures to better support students with disabilities and increase their student outcomes related to achievement and academic growth. You've heard over the last, since Superintendent DeFalco has started, the phrase, if we're not getting the results that we need, then we need to do things differently, and that's also true within the Office of Student Services. A couple of weeks ago, I had participated with the Department of Education on a convening looking at students with disabilities data. Chris Henry, our Director of Curriculum and Instructional Technology, came with me. And during that time, we had worked on looking at some of the special education data and came up with developing some success gap statements. Within our academic performance, our students with disabilities are underperforming in ELA and math MCAS assessments across grades 4, 8, and 10 compared to the state targets. But overall, for grades 4 and 8, I'm really kind of widening that to students grades 3 through 8 that are taking the MCAS. This slide is a little bit different than the one that's in your packet. I added where the performance is currently for students with disabilities in those areas. So for ELA, grades 3 through 8, in grades 10, and math, grades 3 through 8 and 10, those the current performances are up there. And in a future slide, I have those current performances next to the target so you can see where we need to be for those. Our inclusion rates are currently below the state targets. This is for students that are in full inclusion, so 80% or more of their time is within the general education classroom. We're about 57% of our students with disabilities are in regular classes, which is below the state target of 67.5%. Just to give you an idea of what that means is full inclusion would mean that students with disabilities are receiving pullout less than an hour of day. And then partial inclusion, which is that 60 to 80%, is really where we need to focus our looking at the data. That is students that are receiving between an hour to 2 hours of pullout, which means that that's an hour to 2 hours of not being in the general ed class receiving core instruction. Also, our chronic absenteeism is an area of concern. We have continued over the last 3 years to improve our chronic absenteeism, have a decline in chronic absenteeism, but also improve student attendance. That's something I've reported to the school committee over the past couple of years. We have a district-wide attendance team really focused on building-based student attendance teams where they're looking at the data, identifying trends, being able to do best practices based on Attendance Works, which is a resource that the state has directed districts to be able to look for best practices around developing relationships with students, which is part of like frequent contact that's starting with the classroom teacher as far as students that have 5 or more absences, using talking points as an example of that. In our graduation and school withdrawal rates, I want to clarify that I had a major typo in this as far as 63% of our students with disabilities did graduate within 4 years. I accidentally did not. That's a big difference. And 2.3% of our students with disabilities had dropped out based on the 2024 data. with that, the dropout rate, just to kind of put things in perspective, that is based on the total number of students with disabilities enrolled 9 through 12 and how many students had dropped out. In 2024, our enrollment of students with disabilities was about 124 students. So that dropout rate of the 2.3% was 2 students. While it was 2 students, that's 2 students too many that we would be focusing on decreasing that rate. The graduation rate within 4 years, what that means is like the class of, so the class of 2024, there was 25 students with disabilities, and did they all graduate earning a high school diploma? So if students with disabilities that are going on to postgrad who do not earn a competency determination, they do not count as part of that during their 12th grade year when they do not earn a high school diploma. That does impact the graduation rate within 4 years. So that is something that will impact. And if we have currently we have, I believe, so there's 35 seniors this year, and 1 is targeted to be in postgrad. So if there was a class of 20 seniors and 5 of them were postgrad, then we would be below the state target, regardless of the rest of the class being on track for graduating with a diploma. So that's some of the data that we'll have to be looking at when we're looking at the graduation rate within 4 years and the dropout rate. This is at the district level, so our out-of-district students also are part of that data, so it's not just students that are at Marlboro High School. So as part of that convening, we had potential root causes. So these are not necessarily the root causes. These are potential ones that we are looking at digging into the data over the next month. The first is our discipline data, high school discipline data, not being tracked, disaggregated, and analyzed to identify and address trends that may impact graduation and school withdrawal rates. Our discipline data has been tracked as far as the number of suspensions. That is absolutely something that we're doing and keeping track of. How many students with disabilities are suspended, the number of days. However, what we haven't done a great job at is looking at analyzing patterns and trends to be able to develop specific student interventions. That's the piece that has been missing. Our restorative center has been a step in the right direction. That's something that was implemented both at Wickham School and the high school as an alternative to in-house suspensions. However, we need to develop more alt ed programs that are during the school day. And we have a meeting this week to be able to start looking at that. We have our evening alt ed programs for the MATIS and ALA program. Over the last couple of years, we really need to work on improving other options based on data. So that's the piece that we'll be looking at for that discipline data. For student supports, we are looking to strengthen and provide additional supports for differentiated instructions and scaffolds for our classroom teachers as they hold high expectations and rigor within the general ed curriculum. We need to provide those supports so that students with disabilities, as well as our EL students, in order for them to be successful in accessing grade level content within the general ed classroom. This work will be ongoing, and it will involve strong collaboration between the Office of Student Supports and the Office of Teaching and Learning. A potential root cause that we need to do a deeper dive on is our MTSS. We do have a strong PBIS system that's in place. That has been something that's been worked on for a number of years, even prior to me being part of Marlboro. And we have some really strong tier 1 and 2 interventions in place with particularly at our elementary level and K to 8. We need to be looking at our MTSS, stronger MTSS supports within our high school, and really looking at what is our academic tier 2 and tier 3 systems that are across our schools. Are they consistent? Do we have them documented where they're readily available and accessible to teachers to be able to look at, to choose like what are the interventions as we look at our data. Our chronic absenteeism, as I said before, every year our chronic absenteeism has declined and our student attendance has improved. However, our students with disabilities is still higher than our aggregate, and that is an area that we need to be able to do a deeper dive on. And so it's continuing to develop those relationships, looking at those attendance academies, identifying students and families that need wraparound supports, looking again at our re-engagement coaches. The high school was eligible for a grant 2 years ago where we had written it for re-engagement coaches, where the re-engagement coach worked with 30 students that were identified in developing relationships, but also getting into the root cause for individual students as to why they were chronically absent, and then developing specific plans for each of those students. That was highly effective to the point where the high school worked itself out of being eligible for that grant, but that's something that we'd be looking at, seeing, okay, that was something that was effective. Do we have funding available to be able to implement that not only at the high school, but are there other targeted areas within our elementary and middle schools specifically for our students with disabilities? Also, so again, looking at pulling out and specifically looking at students with disability data and developing plans targeted to improving chronic absenteeism with that particular subgroup. For our systems and structures, looking at just really having that systems and structures within the Office of Student Support, looking at our student achievement data, similar to the systems and supports that we have in place for our compliance, and being able to meet all the compliance of the IPs, developing timelines, and taking that and putting it in place for our academic data. So as far as our goals and action steps, so looking at our academic proficiency targets, the district aims to meet the DESI targets for ELA and math MCAS proficiencies for students with disability across key grade levels. And so for our ELA and math grades 3 through 8 and grade 10, I have where we currently are, and then what the target is right before the current data, and we're not too far off. So it's really taking this year to be able to implement interventions, and then looking at progress monitoring, and then taking a look at our mid-year data and end-year data to make sure that we're trending in the right direction. We're also looking to improve our inclusion rates, moving those partial inclusion students into full inclusion, which I will speak about supports with that and ideas to improve that in a subsequent slide. Improving our attendance and absentee rates to the state targets of 18.4% for our non-high school. And our high school students did meet the state target, but we're looking to improve that by 10% with a target of 39.4%, which is above the state. Still not great, but we're looking to continue to move that in the right direction. And then meeting our graduation rate targets of 80.3% and lowering our student withdrawal rates to support student success and completion. So our early warning systems, we are looking to aim to identify at-risk students with monitoring behavior, attendance, and grades. So I've been working with Superintendent DeFalco on creating a system within the Office of Supports for each of our schools and supporting our building principals and our building leadership team on specifically with our students with disabilities, and having a system in place to look at their attendance, their discipline, and behavior data. And then on the academic side, not only looking at MCAS and NUIA data, but also at the secondary level, the number of students that are failing courses, and are they on track for graduation or not, and what identifying those students that are at risk for not graduating, and what plans are we going to be putting into place. So far, we have met with the Marlboro High School team, started looking at their data for students with disabilities and starting to develop what those action plans would be for those students. And then I have scheduling those monthly data cycles with the other building principals. We have one scheduled with the Whitcomb team later on this week. So the weekly behavior attendance, so those structures are in place in many of the schools. We need to strengthen those in some of our schools. I've worked with Principal Sapina to be able to have a more systematic approach at the high school in looking at more than just attendance and layering in the students in the grades that failing grades, as well as the behavior and the discipline data. So with the discipline data, we are focusing on the secondary level. Through this work, we are aiming to support the identification of trends and patterns to be able to allow the director of Alta Ed to be able to develop the programs for these students. And collaboration with our data systems manager and the high school administration team to be able to look at not only the suspensions, but what was the cause, what was the behavior or the incident that caused the suspension, to be able to look at those trends. And we're also looking to be able to identify the root causes, to be able to promote positive behaviors and minimize those exclusionary discipline practices, really looking to reduce the out-of-school suspensions. We are looking to expand our inclusive practices. So taking our inclusion task force. So we have a dedicated task force to review our placement and achievement data to guide inclusive education practices. That will involve myself, the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, our Director of Special Education, Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Technology, our Supervisor of Math, Supervisor of Literacy, and our educational and team leaders. So really taking a whole group approach as to working collaboratively to look at our inclusive practices. This is different. We have been focusing on inclusion practices, really, as I said before, like those substantially separate programs, and building inclusive opportunities for students in substantially separate programs to be able to have more time within the general education classroom and having meaningful inclusive opportunities with their typical peers. But now it's looking at our partial inclusion and having them increase their time with students increasing their time within the general education classroom. Special education is meant to be a supplement, not a supplant of general education. And really working on not having it be in addition to and not instead of. So some of those practices will be strengthening our co-teaching model, really training up our paraprofessionals and having them increase their skill sets to be able to effectively work with small groups of students within a general education classroom to have a better impact, increase the impact of their work within the general education classroom. We have an early release day coming up on December 10th. We had a collaborative meeting last week where we have planned out for our K-5 paraprofessionals to be able to work with with our director of our director of instructional technology, curriculum and instruction technology specialist, along with our curriculum supervisor of math and supervisor of literacy. They're developing a plan to have the HMH, sorry, I am losing track, sorry, to have them trained on our HMH, the into reading, the into math, so that they can be able to run those small groups.
Similar to how you
Yep.
set it up for the 5 days prior.
Yes, so we had this 5 days prior, thank you. The 5 days prior to the start of the school year, we had them rotating through, they'll be rotating through like 3 or 4 different topics on the professional development, the early release day over at Hildreth. Thank you. The curriculum adaptation support, we have been working with Dr. Skaza on making sure that our special education teachers have the same HMH materials that the classroom teachers have, and they have been working with them, starting to participate in the core content PLCs at the grade levels, and really developing their skill sets as far as what the core content is and what the expectations are, so they can either support special education students within the general education classroom, or if they are having a small group in a pullout, that they are using those same materials and being in line. We are going to have ongoing work with our ETLs and special education teachers throughout the year on that. As far as collaborative leadership and professional development, we are also, some of the examples are working on our co-teaching. We had a meeting last week with Principal House, as well as the Office of Teaching and Learning staff, administration, and our Director of EL, to be looking at our co-teaching model at Wickham. We've been doing co-teaching with our EL department and classroom teachers, and how that looks the same and how is that different with our co-teaching model with our special education teachers and classroom teachers. So we are starting those conversations. As far as progress monitoring, we'll be looking at a lot of different data sources. We, over the last 3 weeks, have implemented a data dashboard through Open Architects. There's a free version of Open Architects, which principals have been able to use, as well as our central office administrators at looking at our MCAS data. Mike Lacert has been able to provide and work with Open Architects to be able to have other data readily available to us. So that's included our attendance data, discipline data, our NWEA data, and we are working on having at the secondary level the grades, so whether or not students are failing, failing or passing their grades at the secondary level, so that we have it all together at our fingertips to be able to look at it across all of those for individual students, and be able to look at a 3-year history. Up to this point, last year, I had been doing like individual spreadsheets by hand, pulling exports of attendance to be able to cross-reference that to MCAS data or failing grades, and now it's all right there to be able to utilize. We're able to identify groups of students, so we'll be using that as part of our monthly data teams and having interventions identified, putting those in for students with disabilities, and then each month be able to track and monitor that progress and then adjusting interventions as needed. As part of this plan, we'll have regular checkpoints with data reviews with our meetings. Superintendent DeFalco had talked about our leadership meeting that we had last week, where we had presented our beginning of year data. We'll have our middle of the year data and end of year data that we'll be doing as well. And using the benchmark, the baseline data from the 24-25 year to be able to see, are we making progress with our students with disabilities? And then have those findings reported at the end of the year to the school committee and informing our strategy refinements for the next academic year. So I had talked a little bit earlier about our week one activities within a monthly cycle, having a data meeting specifically looking at our student with disability data. Principals within their building leadership team have monthly data cycles that they're already looking at student data. This is specifically for students with disabilities, so we can really look at whether or not we're moving the needle with that subgroup. As part of that, looking at the data, will be planning interventions, having focused skill groups that will include before, after school programs. Are we doing programs during vacation weeks? What does our ESY programs look during the summer? And then weeks 2 through 4, week 2 will have walkthroughs where the Office of Student Support team will be working with the building administration to do walkthroughs of our special education classrooms, including resource room and supported general education classes. We'll have a debrief of those sessions. During week 3, we'll be working with our building ETLs to make sure that they're monitoring the intervention plans and determining whether or not we need additional action steps or professional development needs based on that data. And then week 4 would be another follow-up of the walkthroughs. And this is work that the walkthroughs and the feedback to teachers is work that started last year across the district. And so this is aligned with the roadmap work. The teachers already know that this is in place, but now we're looking at it through the lens of having the support of the Office of Student Services, having a deeper, more involved support for our building principals and the building-based team, specifically for students with disabilities. And really looking at focusing on student outcomes beyond just the IEP itself. And that is it. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
So, thank you for this in-depth, lengthy report. This was sorely needed, and I'm really thrilled to see us really focusing on it in this way. While you're assessing, and this may be, towards the end of the year or whatever, I would ask that you add in the staffing piece and making sure that we have enough paras to support general ed teachers. I mean, if we're going to do a teaching model and bringing special ed teachers into the classroom, would be the ideal. But I know that that's cost prohibitive probably in a lot of settings. So I just want to make sure that we have enough support in the academic piece and training those paras and making sure we have enough in each classroom. Because I know, particularly as they get older, the only time there's paras in the classroom if they're assigned to a student, right? And some of these special ed kids, if we're going to be including them more, they may not necessarily be coming with para.
So some of the ideas that we're looking at as far as additional supports to classroom teachers around differentiated instruction is also looking at the use of instructional coaches, additional teachers. What does that layer look like? It doesn't necessarily have to be special education teachers or IEP service driven, but what interventions such as additional certified teachers can we put into place as well?
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
So thank you for pulling this all together. Obviously, with some of it not very easy to necessarily tackle, just like we were talking about with sometimes the information that we're talking about that we need to do a better job of. I would really be remiss if I didn't say that I thought that some of these things were already happening. And maybe they are, I guess, probably, maybe a little bit on me. I thought that in some cases they were more robust than potentially they are at this point. Especially where, thank you, I sent a bunch of questions just so you all know to be a little bit more upfront. So I didn't ask a ton of questions here and Jody was not necessarily prepared for some of the things. So some of the different numbers, thank you for adding it. And that'd be great to be able to get those slides to make sure that we're on the same page about, because such as the work I feel like we were doing around MTSS back in like 2018, where we were looking at the interventions for the different tiers. Some of it's been done, some of it has not necessarily been done. And I think it may be helpful for all of us. And I mentioned this when I was speaking with the superintendent earlier today. We're not supposed to be in the weeds, but I'm making assumptions then that some of this stuff is going on. And apparently in some cases it may have happened and it may not have happened. So I think it may be helpful if we get a little bit more active reports of understanding where things are going, what's successful and what's not successful, and how it's also dovetailing with the work that we are doing in our general classroom and with EL. So all across, we're making sure that we're kind of hitting on all cylinders and how it's working together. So I think that would be really helpful to hear, because if we need to make sure that that integration is back into the classroom more, that means that everybody's got to be working together and the curriculum is hitting, whether we're doing the into math or the literacy, that it's hitting everyone. And all of the teachers are prepared, whether you're in special education, whether you're EL or your general education, right? We've all got to be working in with the same information.
As we lay out the calendar for the school committee meetings, which is already underway, we can add a quarterly update if that would be helpful to the work that we're doing here.
That'd be
Just
great.
to share, Jody has a very detailed progress monitoring mechanism already in place, so we're already collecting the information. So we certainly could share out how we're progressing with it.
And
yeah.
I want to say that it definitely is happening. The work is happening, but as far as consistency and continuity, I think like putting systems into place to make sure that we have consistency and continuity across.
Yeah, and I think that that's what would be helpful to do. I really looked back at some of the notes around MTSS, and frankly, we had some of those things that we had started to establish was around behavioral evaluations, so that we would have a common language that would really be able to push vertically and horizontally. So it could be shared. I can remember having some discussions around making sure that from the elementary that we were sharing information moving from the elementary to the middle school. So we would ease that transition and that the teachers were prepared for what was coming their way. And similarly from the middle school to the high school. So my hope is that we're looking back on some of that and maybe it's not perfect, but we need to make sure that we have that common language and it's passing along so that it's effective.
So on that piece, I can confidently say that for K to 8, that is very, very strong. The majors and minors, all 4 elementary principals have a shared document that has all of the behaviors, majors and minors, the common language, and then that's tied into with Principal House, the same type of system as far as how that translates into the middle school level. It is a very strong system, K to 8.
Great. That's awesome. So I think it's just continuing to kind of keep pushing it across the board. And I think probably, I would say, at least for me, I definitely need some more education, I guess I'm going to say, around the graduation numbers and really trying to understand, because I can't exactly put myself in the shoes of a parent of a student who may need more assistance past their 4 years. And then that time from like a graduation time period of the 4 years until they're 22. Because in some cases, I'm thinking about where I want my child to get as much exposure and education as possible. And if they can get additional services to support them on that path till 22, I'm thinking that I'm going to probably want that. Now, that's layman. I don't know all of the special education in and out. But I think that that's something where, at least for me, that was an interesting area to acknowledge that I don't have enough insight on, because for me, as a parent, I'd want my child to get as much as they could out of it. And if by staying a little bit longer, they could get more, boy, I'd want them here. So not necessarily understanding how that's going to affect our numbers. That was something that I think was different news for me, I guess I would say.
The competency determination piece, which I know we have coming up later, is a large piece of that.
Yeah, and that's actually where I was thinking about our discussions that we've had around the competency determination and what are those benchmarks that people need to reach, and then the discussions that we've had around the table about whether some of the students within special education, have they met those benchmarks or not, right? Or what are we setting? So I don't know, more to learn about, I guess, at that point, but thank you.
So there's a slide that says potential root causes. So have those been identified? Because I thought you had said that you had to go back to the data and do some more digging to see what those root causes are.
Right, those are just potentials. They're not.
Right, so
So they are potential root causes. Some of them I think we're more confident about whether or not it is a root cause. This was at the like 3 weeks ago when I had gone to a 2-day workshop with DESE. We didn't Chris Henry and I didn't necessarily have all of the data to be able to go through. So it was like just brainstorming and looking at just different aspects to see what may be.
So I guess my question then, if we don't know what the actual true root causes are, because we're going to go back to the data, how can we formulate goals based upon how to fix the potential root causes that we don't know what they actually are?
So
Does that make sense?
It does. Like, for instance, I can
would-
confidently say that chronic absenteeism is definitely impacting student achievement. So
I'm guessing the more we dig into the data, our goals could potentially change based upon those root causes.
yes, or the interventions. So as we're looking at root causes, for instance, root causes of some of the suspensions, as we look at trends, then an intervention out of that could potentially be the development of a specific alt ed program that's meets the needs of 5 or 6 students.
Okay, but do you see where I'm going? So, I mean, I don't want this goal
do,
I guess to be set in stone. I guess if we have to move them based upon what the actual causes are. Correct?
Adjusting the goals, yes.
Right.
So if there are any adjustments, I can report out.
I'm not concerned about like what you're reporting back to me. what I'm trying to understand, it was a very well done presentation, but what I'm trying to understand is that we're setting all these goals on something that we may not have all the answers to. So we're trying to figure out what the goals are based upon the data that we don't necessarily have yet in completion.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think to your point, if, as Jody and the team go back and keep digging, if we see that we need to
Sure.
make some adjustments to the goals, we will.
That's what I'm hoping to hear. Because
Yeah.
again, I just don't want to find out that we're missing the mark and like, oh, well, we can't do that because it's not part of our goals
It
if
would
we
be
don't have all the data.
It would be surprising if these change significantly, because this is sort of the work, right? There's discipline, there's instruction, interventions, absenteeism, building the structure so the work can happen. I would be surprised if there were like major changes to this.
Right. Or just maybe fine tuning.
But there may be some fine tuning.
Okay.
Sure.
As I look at the presentation, again, really comprehensive. Is it right to think about pages 8, 9, and 10 as the potential menu of action plans based on the root causes? And that in a subsequent discussion, Jody, we might know more or less which aspects of the potential solutions on 8, 9, and 10 are more pronounced or more directly connected to resolving the underlying root causes.
Yes, I would agree. What I would anticipate is in future updates to the committee would be able to say, through the last couple of months, like this is where the data is pointing, and so therefore these are the action steps that we developed an after school program focusing on this at this school and focusing on these skills. Maybe it's proposal of staffing position, those types of actions. Based on this, I would be reporting back and updating the school committee.
Okay. And a follow-up to that, are there any resources or constraints that come to mind when you look at the page about expanding the inclusive activities, or are we kind of in good shape there relative to whatever the expansion from X to Y might need to be?
I think that we're in good shape. One of my strengths is reallocating resources. So, if we need to change how we're using resources to be able to support inclusive practices, then we'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, one more. Just relative to at the end where you're talking about the oversight and the walkthroughs, monitoring, debrief, all of that section. I guess I would just say that I am a bit concerned that we have a lot that we're asking of the staff to need to do, especially if we're trying to address some of the needs specific to special education and moving the kids from into more of an inclusion time period. We've got the into math, we've got the new literacy. There's a lot on people's plates. So I just want to make sure we're all being really cognizant about how you've mentioned about the supports, but if we're also providing the walkthroughs, the feedback, the this and the that everyone really is collectively understanding that the feedback that's coming in is to try and help us to improve, but an acknowledgement that there's a lot on everyone's plate, right?
Absolutely. And if I could just briefly speak to that, our teachers, and I think you heard a little bit about it already this evening, our teachers have a lot going on in their classrooms. They are doing incredible work across the district. We're in every school every week, and we are in classrooms almost every single day, multiple classrooms. And the teachers are working really, really hard and working smart and doing their best to meet the needs of the students in front of them, whether it's an inclusion classroom or any other setting for that matter. One of the things that I would say, and this is more of a plea to our teachers, next week I am starting school visits with just the teachers. After school, they're optional, check in, grab a cup of coffee, and I want to hear from them, like what's working, what's not, what's next. Those are sort of the three big questions. So I would ask any of our staff to share that. I think it's fair to say they're probably overwhelmed. There is a lot coming at them in a short amount of time. But again, I would go back to that notion of the resiliency that we've seen in our teachers, and they're really committed to doing what needs to be done. But that being said, I do think there is an important aspect of ensuring we're extending the grace necessary, right? As people are learning new things and trying new things and implementing new practices, and being really collegial and supportive, but still on the quest and journey of improvement, which we all need to do.
Yeah, because bottom line, that's the success of the students is what we are all looking for. That's our goal.
There's always a little tension there. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and I think with, with increased visitations in the building, I know Mary always did walkthroughs, so it's not new, but, I want us to be mindful that we're communicating what you are communicating what you see back to teachers in ways that are not feeling like a gotcha, or like that they're not doing what they need to be doing in a way that might feel that it could affect their job performance, right? I mean, we're trying to build a new culture that includes more people being involved in the education of students. It's not teachers just working in a silo by themselves. There's coaches, there's, administrators, there's, it's a new day in some ways, right? And you're trying to build a new culture. But I just want to make sure that our teachers don't feel that they are being like in a fishbowl and being watched all the time and feel anxious about that.
We're definitely trying to build a culture of collaboration and improvement. I won't sit here and pretend that people aren't feeling what you're saying. That would be disingenuous and dishonest. Not entirely sure how to fix that. We're trying so that, our educators know it's not an I gotcha. And we're having lots of conversations about the level of collaboration that's necessary. We're only going to get better together, and we're all part of the solution. And so I think until that is felt, and I always say feelings aren't facts, I can't really change how someone feels, but I can only lead, and our team can only lead with authenticity and support. And people will interpret that in the way they do, but we're gonna keep trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think just talking about it helps to diffuse those feelings. I mean, you're going to feel what you feel, obviously, but the more we talk about the fact that we're all in this together, and the purpose of the exercise isn't to be critical of the way things are being done, it's to change practices to get better results for children. That's what it's all about, right? We are in service of children.
Is exactly
all
what
of
it's
us
all about.
together. And the more we talk about the fact that we're all in this together, I think that will help to alleviate those feelings of concern that people are being judged for not being up to snuff.
Okay. Moving on. Thank you. Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Spezza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. PD update. Last Tuesday marked the date of our first full day of professional development. The morning session consisted of anti-bias, anti-racism, otherwise known as ABAR training, with our entire faculty. The ABAR training was rooted in Zaretta Hammond's work, the culturally responsive teaching in the brain. The specific focus was geared around how schools can either create independent or dependent learners. The initial feedback received from participants of this training indicated that it was found to be valuable and practical for next day use in the classrooms. The second portion of the PD Day was choice sessions organized by the district roadmap priorities. Each session had a connection to either student discourse, high expectations, well-structured lessons, student ownership, or high-quality feedback. We also offered sessions specifically geared toward Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions in both academics and behavior. Our joint PD committee meets November 13th, that's this Thursday, to begin action planning next steps for the professional development day on January 20th. I should note here that we are hearing and receiving an appetite for a bit of a change to our structure. Less choice, more direct options that are designated for educators in specific priority areas that both educators and administration have identified. So that joint PD committee and I will be working through those next steps in that process for a structure change starting this Thursday. Saturday attendance academies. So kind of working off of Assistant Superintendent O'Brien's points made around attendance. What we have done through our targeted assistance grant is we have been able to fund attendance academies for our Whitcomb Middle School specifically. And the targeted assistance grant was initially intended for Whitcomb Middle School, so we just kept pace with offering those attendance academies for the Whitcomb Middle School students. They have already held 2 sessions. The first session got off to a great start. We ended up with 32 students attending. And the second session was even better with 42 in attendance. We had guidance counselors meet with students to get to the root causes of their absences, and I spoke with Tara Soboleski, who's running the program. Heather Roach is one of those guidance counselors. She said that Ms. Roach had polled students individually to have kind of a heart-to-heart with them about what the roadblocks were to getting them to school. And then she set goals almost like you would have kind of a chore chart at home. So they come into the office, the guidance office, and they have incentives and goals for the week to meet their attendance targets, if you will. So along with getting to the root causes of what's prohibiting kids from getting to school, they're also making up schoolwork while they're at these attendance academies. And in many cases, these students have gone from failing to passing grades as a result of that extra work. So good things there. We will continue to update the school committee on the progress and effectiveness of these academies, and we have our next one coming this Saturday. That concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. You're good?
If you have any more of the book that I can borrow, I would love to read it.
I have to say, because I sit on the ABAR committee, and Rupal's probably laughing at me because I was geeking out about this book. Like, I feel like we read the first couple of chapters, and I'm just like devouring it. It's a short little book, but for a non-educator, it is helping me so much to understand a lot more about what how to do what you guys do. And I highly recommend this book. It's very easy, like it's written in like layman's terms.
Well, I was geeking out looking at the
It
PDF
is-
we got, so I was like, I want to read the book. So
Yes, I highly recommend it. It's it's culturally responsive
teaching and the brain.
and the brain.
And the
And I just, I love all that brain stuff. So, yes, Zaretta Hammond is
And,
the author.
Quick shout out to Principal Patel, who's in the audience
Yes.
tonight. Along with the steering committee, Principal Patel was instrumental in making sure that we rooted our ABAR work in Zaretta Hammond's text, and it's been well received so far. So,
Awesome.
Nice job.
It's really great.
And I just wanted to say thank you. I had asked for some information about the PD attendance, just numbers to understand. And you're kind of reading my mind where you were going, is I wanted to understand like who was going for some of the PD courses that we really need. Like we need people to get focused in on some of those. And I'm happy to say that some of the numbers in those certain areas were really pretty high. So yay. Good for
And-
self-selection.
And Superintendent DeFalco had a good idea too. We haven't done this yet, kind of reviewed the options with a poll, if you will, for the educators prior to even creating the PD offerings with the joint PD committee. So essentially taking a temperature of what is desired and what would be attended, and then building the PD options from there.
I like that a lot, only from the standpoint that while I like variations, and you all know I love having choices, there are some things that we really need to get focused on, right? So this may be the time that we have to kind of pare back our options and get really focused. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
And can I just make one more? I am always, I love that you share with us what they think, what the different options are. And I don't know, if the general public knows this, but the overwhelming majority of the people that are conducting these professional development sessions are teachers. I mean, we're not hiring lots of outside specialists once in a while if there's a topic that needs outside support. But the majority of these sessions are run by peers and administrators. So that to me just speaks to the quality and the, professionalism that we have, that not only are they able that they have enough mastery to then teach to their peers, but that they're willing to do that. And that always really impresses me. So
True dedication to the district.
100%.
Okay. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to acceptance of minutes. Minutes of the October 14th, 2025 school committee meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes of the October 14th, 2025 school committee meeting.
Motion is on the table and seconded. Questions, comments, concerns regarding the October 14th meeting? Seeing none, all in favor? Carries. Minutes of the October 28th, 2025 school committee meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes of October 20th, 2025.
Motion's on the table and seconded to approve October 28th school committee meeting minutes. Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Motion carries. They are both approved. Moving on. Public comment. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment for the second time? Seeing none. Last and final chance for public comment. Seeing none, we will close the public comment section. We're moving on to action items and reports. Policies for first read. Policy ILC, competency determination.
Thank you so much. So tonight you have before you policy ILC, which is a new policy, competency determination. It's something that we needed to pull out from our graduation requirement policy and have it as a standalone. So as you can see, you have some black, and basically the black information is stuff that was elsewhere. And then you have other portions of red that's in there. I really want to thank not only Steve Serpina, right? I'm going to mess up the name, but yeah, Steve, as well as Jody O'Brien and RJ Skaza, as well as the superintendent on really working with the policy subcommittee on this. So you have before you are hopefully for first read. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay. First read, so there's no action. So read it, review it. Questions, reach out. Moving on. Reports of school committee subcommittee. Seeing none? No? Moving on. Members forum. Yes, Ms. Hennis.
I've reviewed the warrant and will be signing it. I do have a couple questions, but nothing that I think should preclude signing. And
Okay.
Dr. DeFalco is helping me on getting those answers. So thank you.
Anything else from members forum? Yes.
I have a couple things. Just a reminder that the high school dessert theater is coming up on November 21st and 22nd. I believe it's at 7 o'clock, but I don't know for sure. I haven't seen it advertised yet, but I have a child involved, so that's why I know about it.
Okay. Hey, you said a few things, yeah?
Oh, and just a happy birthday to Julia Marshall.
Happy birthday, Julia.
Okay.
Julia is our scribe, secretary, doing our minutes remotely.
Yes, happy birthday. She just won an award for the Boys and Girls Club Gala.
Yes.
She did. I was able to go there, which was great. Moving on. Yes.
I had one thing just for awareness. I filed a disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest, GLC 26A, reflecting the fact that I'm a parent of a child in the school system and a member of the PTO.
Got it.
So wanted that to just be part of the public record.
Thank you. And lastly, Veterans Day is tomorrow, so the parade will kick off at 10 o'clock. So if you're around, please support our vets by showing up to the wonderful parade. And that's about it. Anything else? No?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn is on the table and seconded. All in favor of adjourning. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:04. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Stay dry.